In a realm far beyond our mortal world lies a place where no one wishes to end up. This is the land of the dead, ruled by the formidable Yama, the god of death. He sits upon a throne made of bones, with skin as dark as the night and eyes that burn with the fire of 1,000 souls. Yama's court is no ordinary courtroom. It is a place where the fate of every soul is decided. And let me tell you, this is one invitation you do not want to receive. But who exactly is Yama? In the vast pantheon of Hindu deities, Yama holds a unique position as the first mortal to die, thereby becoming the ruler of the afterlife. According to ancient scriptures, he was once a virtuous king, known for his fairness and justice, who was rewarded with the responsibility of overseeing the fate of all souls. Yama is often depicted riding a fearsome buffalo, carrying a noose to capture the souls of the deceased. His role as the Dharmaraja, the king of righteousness, makes him both revered and feared across the Indian subcontinent. In Hindu mythology, Yama is not just a god of death, but also a guardian of moral order, ensuring that every soul receives the consequences of its earthly actions in the afterlife. Yama, known for his unwavering sense of duty, is perhaps the most diligent judge in the cosmic order. Some might say he takes his job a bit too seriously, but can you blame him? After all, he's responsible for deciding where each soul will spend its afterlife. And trust me, in Yama's court, there's no room for appeals or second chances. As you enter his domain, the first thing that strikes you is the overwhelming sense of dread that permeates the air. The River Vaitarna flows by, a river of fire and brimstone, its waters boiling with the agony of countless souls. The cries of the damned echo through the charred landscape, and the scent of sulfur is thick enough to choke on. It's a far cry from the slightly uncomfortable version of hell you might have imagined. In this foreboding atmosphere, Yama sits, poised and ready to pass judgment. Each soul that stands before him is laid bare, every sin and virtue meticulously weighed. There's no hiding your true self here. Yama sees all. As he reviews your life's deeds, you might catch a glimpse of his stern expression, and if you're lucky, maybe a flicker of something that could be interpreted as a smirk. But don't be fooled. Yama's sense of humor, if he has one, is as dark as his domain. So, how does this judgment work? Picture this. You've lived your life, made your choices, and now you stand at the gates of the afterlife. Yama flips through the cosmic ledger of your deeds. Were you kind, just, and virtuous? Or did you indulge in deceit, greed, and malice? In Yama's court, there's no room for ambiguity. If you've been a good soul, you might just be lucky enough to get another shot at life, perhaps as a human, or if you're really fortunate, a divine being. But if your ledger is dripping with sin, well, let's just say your next stop won't be quite as pleasant. For those unfortunate souls who find themselves condemned, Yama's judgment is swift and unforgiving. Down, down they go, into the many layers of hell, each one more terrifying than the last. There's the oil cauldron, where sinners are boiled alive, the iron spikes, where they must walk endlessly, their feet shredded by the jagged points, and the unquenchable fire that burns without end. It's a place where time seems to stretch into eternity, and the suffering knows no bounds. And yet, in the midst of all this horror, there's a certain dark humor to it all. Imagine, if you will, Yama leaning back in his throne, glancing over the records of a particularly wicked soul, and casually remarking, "Well, I hope you like your stay, because you'll be here for a while." It's the kind of gallows humor that would make even the most hardened soul break out in a cold sweat. As your sentence is passed, and you're sent off to your eternal fate, there's one last, lingering thought that might cross your mind. Maybe I should have tried a little harder in life. But by then, it's far too late. Yama doesn't do refunds or second chances. So what's the takeaway here? Well, if Yama has taught us anything, it's that in the grand scheme of things, it pays to be good, or at least not too bad. After all, you never know when you might find yourself standing in Yama's court, staring down the dark eyes of the god of death, hoping against hope that you don't end up on the wrong side of his judgment. But for now, keep living your life, make good choices, and maybe, just maybe, you can avoid a one-way ticket to Yama's infernal vacation spot. And if you can't, well, at least you'll have an interesting story to tell, if you ever get the chance.